My book report is Rethinking Multicultural Education, Teaching for Racial and Cultural Justice, which is edited by Wayne O. And this is my entire book report in the presentation. So the summary and the central arguments. Overall, there are 5 major sections, which I will talk about, each in detail. And then they also kind of talk about how the educators can fight the biases, and then how more attainable and competent curriculum is needed. And these all kind of feed into each other, which is why I've had arrows connecting these 3 ideas. The first section is anti-racist orientation. So first we need to know how to orient ourselves against anti-racist ideas. And overall, we can do that with the idea of anti-racist versus multicultural education. Anti-racist more focuses on how to fight against, where multicultural just has those warm and fuzzy feelings as the book describes it, and more so gives us a sense of we think we are doing the right thing, where anti-racist gives us the tools to do so. And then the racist idea that academic success depends on ethnic groups is a huge factor. It's a huge bias that comes up. The example is that if Asian Americans are good at math and their success is because of their ethnic group, then those ethnic groups who oftentimes struggle in schools are based upon their groups and their ethnics rather than their own success. And if we are stuck in this idea, then we don't have this growth mindset and we cannot provide success for both groups. Section 2 is the fight for multicultural education. This is says the best resource is firsthand. This means we need to listen to the voices in our classrooms. So instead of dismissing the students who are experiencing the cultural ideas that we were talking about, or maybe just brushing over them lightly, we include them in our education and in our curriculum. So in our majority group is oftentimes protecting those notions that make us feel better about ourselves or make us feel like we are fighting. In reality, the majority group needs to get uncomfortable in order to learn from others. Section 3 is language, culture, and power. So overall, standard English versus a non-standard. Standard English is used as a term in academics. However, when we say standard, we're implying that there is a non-standard, which is oftentimes AAVE for African Americans and any other language that is just not typically academic language. Instead, we just need to call it academic language instead of a standard English, because it just shows that we have a non-standard. And then overall, language is power, and then that academics should add to the cultures, not take away from them. Section 4 is the transitional identities and multicultural classrooms. So knowledge is power, ignorance is bliss. These are terms that we have heard, but is this really true? Knowledge is power, which I can agree with based off of this book. Section 4 outlines that when we know more about the cultures in our room and the cultures around us, we're more apt to include them and understand them and instead fight for them. And then especially when we, as an outsider, we have to see that these cultures are not deficient to our own, but rather add to their own selves. And then the ignorance is bliss, I believe, is not bliss, because when we are ignorant to other cultures, we're only blissful to ourselves, not blissful to everybody. And then so we need to really quit fitting into the white student's mold and embrace other cultures as a whole. Section 5, confronting the race in the classroom. So we need to have meaningful connections. There is an example in Section 5 that outlines the issue of coming together and having they had African studies, and it really resonated with those students because those students picked that studies. But when that same curriculum is used with a different group the next year, they didn't have as many outcomes that were positive because they did not have that connection. So we need to have meaningful connections when creating our curriculum, which means it needs to be ever-changing and ever-growing. We cannot have curriculum that is just this blanket and a mold year after year. It has to be ever-changing with the groups of students that we have coming into our classrooms. So overall, the finding and evidence, these are all first-hand accounts from other authors that Wayne Au has now edited into the book. We need to build curricula that embraces and respects others. We need to have no comparison to the majority. Again, as Section 4 says, we should not have a deficit into other cultures based upon our own majority white culture. It should be overall not a blanket curriculum as well as described in Chapter 5 or in Section 5. The strengths and the weaknesses to this book. Overall, this book is very strong. There's multiple voices and accounts, which accounts to the evidence, and it's very truthful And it's very hard-hitting because these are first-hand accounts. The only weakness that I would say is that there's no real plan on how to move forward. These accounts give ideas and give suggestions. However, there is no real idea other than we need to change it every year and we need to have the voices in our classroom help us, rather than here's an outline on how you can do so. And of course, the audience is educators, because this entire book is molding to how to create curriculum that is multicultural and it fights that racial and social justice. So in conclusion, educators need to be more resilient in fighting for and creating multicultural education. Multicultural education cannot be born overnight. We need to create it with our students and with the voices, because it is ever changing and it is ever growing. As our world changes, our classrooms changes, and different ideas come upon based on who is in our classroom. And then we need to listen to those voices in our classroom. And that is my book report and the presentation for it.